We are good to go, sir.
And you should understand, when you tell me I can't do something, that's exactly what I want to do.
But remember, I control everything, so I can just say, oh man, we had a technical issue. I don't know.
I know. It's your overweening pride. I control everything. Are we on there?
Yeah, we're live right now. This is just live, bro.
I'm sorry you had to hear me rebuke him, everybody. But it's Thursday night. That means it's time for AMA. Ask Me Anything. My name is Pete Baker. We're with Alta Vista Assembly in beautiful bucolic East Bakersfield, California. I always add the California because we have folks that are listening to us live and in playback, literally all over. We've had contacts from people in Fiji and Congo and India and Pakistan and Nepal, and I don't even know where all. So welcome to everybody. It's great to have you. We're going to be here for the next 30 minutes or so and answer a few very good questions that have been sent in previous. And I am joined tonight by the control freak, the master of disaster, the moderator, the jovial, affable, laughable. Matthew is with us again. Matt, you're shifty-eyed looking nervous, but I want you to greet the people and tell them how we play the game.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. We're doing at my house tonight because I don't know why. Anyway, welcome to Ask Me Anything.
Tell them why, because you didn't do your laundry and you're not wearing pants right now.
Don't say that.
That's the reason.
So anyway, the way it works is you submit your questions in the comments. We'll ask those live. We have people who have submitted questions over the course of the last couple of weeks. So we'll get started with those.
Sure. Just for future reference, tell them how they can submit questions anonymously and in advance if they want, because some of these were.
Anonymously, you can just send them either via the website by going to altavista.com/AMA and just put anonymous in the name. You can put a fake name too if you'd like.
Can you put that address up in a bit?
Yeah, I can put that up in a bit. Or you can also send us a direct message on our Facebook page. We also answer those. We've had people even send them to our Google profile on Google.
It's crazy, huh?
Which is really crazy, actually. Like how, of all the options, that's the one they land on is my question.
Well,
anyway,
we aim to please. We aim to please, so fire when ready.
Fire when ready. Okay, so it's cap or no cap again.
Oh.
We got another submission.
For the uninitiated, cap or no cap means?
Cap means that it is not true. No cap means it is true. There is some truth to it.
Okie dokie. So what do we got?
Well, last week was the Super Bowl, and there was an ad on the Super Bowl that has kind of divided our country. A lot of people, it upset a lot of Christians. It upset a lot of other people. So we're going to watch it.
We love people upset. So what did they get upset about?
They get offended by some feet washing. So we're going to watch that now. And you're going to comment. People want your thoughts on this ad, okay?
My honest reaction.
So I'm going to go ahead and set it up here. Give me a two shake. There we go. And this is going to come right here, okay? Can you see right there? You got your reading glasses?
I can see it.
Okay.
Don't ask me what you know is true. Don't have to tell you I love your precious heart. I was standing, you were there. Two worlds collided, and they could never tear us apart. We can live for 1,000 years.
Okay.
So
well,
that is what has been causing
the controversy.
all the controversy, yes.
That's actually the second time I've seen it. I saw it when it played.
Oh, you watched the Super Bowl?
I watched part of it, and I saw that when it played. And somebody in our family, I think Johnny said, it looked like it was AI generated.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah. Anyway, it was pretty cool. The vivid and everything, and easy to pick up the message. I think, and I've seen a little bit of the controversy that surrounds it. You told me earlier that there was some non-believers or atheists or agnostics that had problems with it. I've seen reaction from Christian groups or Christian individuals that didn't care for it. And one of their concerns, one of their gripes was, wow, that must have cost a lot of money. It was 60 seconds, I think. So
Yeah,
that would be a lot of dollars for a Super Bowl
millions
ad.
of dollars.
Oh, yeah.
Millions.
Anyway, and that's been one of the, couldn't the money kind of similar to the
Would Jesus have wanted that ad spent that way, do you think?
well,
Or
the
do
money
you think
issue
he-
from believers is, it puts me in the mind of, the objection that Judas and some of the others made when the woman wasted money on Jesus with the perfume and the ointment and the anointing and all that. Couldn't this have been sold and given to the poor? I mean, it's along those lines. So that's an old one. I think that's a not a great objection to make to the ad. You may object to it on other grounds, but as far as the money, it wasn't your money, and B, it pales in comparison to all of the money that was spent on the event that you did enjoy. I mean, it's really ridiculous to make a claim like that when one of the chief underwriters of the football game itself was a gambling site, where multiples of that amount were wasted.
But you would expect
nobody
a
said
gambling
anything.
site
But
to
nobody complains
run
about
an
that.
ad. You wouldn't
Complaining
expect
about this
a-
ad, but you're not complaining about that. If your problem is, couldn't the money have been better used? I would submit it could have been better used than the gambling site. But that was one of the chief underwriters of the game. You've got multimillionaires playing the game, and nobody seemed to be terribly bothered about that. So it's a little disingenuous when they say, oh, they spent $7 million or whatever it was on that ad. Couldn't it have been better spent? Well, yes, it could have, but so could the whole thing. So stop, all right? So there's that. But as far as people's objection on the Christian end to the content, and I really won't say anything to atheists or unbelievers that object to it, because from Jump Street, right out of the gate, they're not going to like it because they don't like the message. And they don't like the messenger. And they don't like how we feel about the messenger. So I won't even address that. But let me address the world that I know maybe a little bit better, and that's the Christians that objected to it. And they seem to object to it on the grounds that the message was watered down. It wasn't strong enough. In fact, there's a counter narrative. They're saying instead of he gets us, they should have been saying he saves us. And they even offer some alternate narratives. They could have played, and I think there's a clip floating around of a woman who says that she was enmeshed in the gay lifestyle, and I didn't watch her story, but she's come out of it, and I guess the idea is, Jesus saved her out of that lifestyle. Why couldn't that have been run rather than what was run? Here's the thing, and I kind of take it that maybe some of the people objected to it because Jesus is washing people's feet in the guise of other people. But that is the point. When Jesus originally washed the disciples' feet, he said, do you understand what I've done to you? And if I, your master and Lord, have done this, you should wash one another's feet, which is exactly what the commercial was portraying. That in the person of believers, Jesus is the one washing the feet. And when we do it, we are doing it as him. And I find that very biblical. Okay, so that part of it. So I don't see the problem there, because that's what believers are supposed to do, because Jesus did. I think some people objected to the people whose feet were getting washed. There were people in front of an abortion clinic. I think that was one of the scenes. And the believer, Jesus in the believer, is washing, I guess, a gal that was going into the abortion clinic. And I think some people find that unacceptable. I think there was one scene where there was some individual that was portrayed supposed to be gay, I think, and their feet were being washed. So I think the implication from some believers is they're not worthy of having their feet washed. I would just say to those believers, nobody is worthy of having their feet washed. And if you object to a believer or Jesus washing a gay person's feet, or a girl that's going to have an abortion's feet, or anybody else that you object to, please don't say that around me, because that's the point. That is the point. They're not deserving of it, but neither is anybody else.
But some people are saying Jesus wouldn't wash the feet of his enemies. What do you say to that? Because that's one
That's
guy
absurd.
was so
That's
mad
absolutely
that
absurd.
they would have Jesus portraying washing somebody else. He washed his disciples' feet, not just some random people's feet.
He did it after he asked he told the disciples, one of you is going to betray me. And they all thought, I'm the guy. They all recognized that they had the potential to betray him. And in fact, they all did. Judas wasn't the only betrayer. But he also washed Judas. So if you want to say Judas is the most guilty, he did wash his enemies' feet. He did. And so that's a spurious argument, and it's from somebody who hasn't read the scriptures, or if they read it in a selective way. Because that is the point. He washed the feet of those who were hostile to him. You see, somebody would say something like that has fundamentally missed the whole point of the gospel, the message of good, which is that Jesus takes us, his enemies, and he could make us slaves. When a conquering army, conquers a group of people in the ancient world, those people would then become the conquerors, the victors' slaves. And they counted it a privilege. You're letting me live. I'm a slave, but at least you're letting me live. That's not what Jesus does. He takes us, his enemies, and instead of making us slaves, he makes us sons and daughters. You see? So he does wash the feet of his enemies. He died for his enemies. Everybody he died for was guilty. Everybody that is saved is pardoned. And the whole idea of a pardon is you were guilty as sin. That's why you had to be pardoned. So it's ridiculous. And as far as the believers or groups of believers that find a problem with this, you really need to go find something worthwhile to do rather than criticize those that are doing this. Was it a perfect message? Was it the whole gospel? Did it talk about salvation? No. But we live in a society that I think has so unraveled and so far removed from its moorings spiritually, and so far removed from traditions that formed us, that molded us. I think we've moved so far away that we need to practice not evangelism, but in some cases pre-evangelism. And I think that the He Gets Us campaign falls in the category not of good evangelism, because it's not the whole message, but it does fall into the category of necessary pre-evangelism. There are millions of people in our society today that don't understand anything about the gospel. And part of the reason that they have misunderstandings is because bonehead Christians say things like criticisms against something like this, or criticisms that Jesus would not wash the feet of his enemies. Those people are not very representative of Christ, and I hope they don't represent me. I don't feel any need to defend people like that. So there, I've gone on a little mini rant, but that's the way I feel about it. I thought it was an excellent presentation. Did I think it was the whole gospel? No. But I don't think you can sum up the whole gospel in saying he saves us either. It's a great deal deeper than that. And so there are a number of simpleton Christians that jumped on this, and, just stay away from me.
Verna said, I'm loving this answer, Pete. Thank you.
Well, it's heartfelt.
It is. Okay, next question. Do angels have free will like us? Is that why some went off and did their own thing?
Okay, let me just first say angels are a category of divine beings, okay? This is where people's hair catches on fire, is when you realize from passages like Psalm 82 that there are a number of Elohim. The word Elohim means divine beings. It's a Hebrew word, obviously, plural word. It means divine beings. We have translated it very often into English as gods, and that's where people's hair catches fire. Are you telling me that there's a lot of gods? Well, if you want to use that word, yes, that's what I'm telling you, that there are a number of divine beings. But they are different kinds of divine beings. The divine beings that have been created by Yahweh, there are a lot of different categories of divine beings. And while there are many Elohim, there are many divine beings, and Yahweh is a divine being, Yahweh is an Elohim, no other Elohim is Yahweh. He is God Most High. So if you want to call them gods, that's fine. There are many gods, but none of them are God Most High. There are many divine beings. And in the category that we call divine beings, in the Bible, they're referred to by various names: the host of heaven, which means the army. They're also referred to as the sons of God. They're referred to as the divine council. They're referred to as the assembly. They go by various names. But it encompasses all of the divine beings, and divine beings receive different designations, principally in the Old Testament, in the Hebrew Scriptures, based on their status, how close they are to Yahweh. And some are closer in proximity than others, or have more to do with him than others. And so they receive status names. Some receive names that have to do with their job description, and others have names that have to do with their nature. One of the names that the divine beings, some divine beings receive that have to do with their job description, are known as angels. There are many kinds of divine beings, but there's one category known as angels. The word means messenger. And that's what they do. They don't originate anything, but they carry messages. And you see them over and over in the pages of the Old Testament and the New Testament, and they're bringing messages from Yahweh, from God Most High. They don't originate the messages, they don't edit the messages, they just convey the messages. They are messengers. And when you think about it, if you're a Bible reader and you remember the times that angels have shown up, they always have a message from the Lord. L-O-R-D, which is Yahweh, okay? So the question is, do these angels, can they make decisions on their own? Exactly what was the exact wording of the question?
Do angels have free will like
Free will.
us? Is that why they went off and did their own thing?
No, they have very little agency at this point. Now, can they obey, disobey? Yes. And at some point, a number of them seem to have disobeyed, but it seems that a number of other kinds of divine beings disobeyed. I said a moment ago that some of the names that we give different orders of divine beings have to do with their job description, like angels, but another job description name is seraphim or cherubim. One is a Babylonian word, one is an Egyptian word, but they're the same thing. And seraphim, cherubim are throne guardians. That's why you see them on top of the Ark of the Covenant, on the mercy seat. Those are seraphim or cherubim. And they are guarding the throne. That is the seat of God. And so they are throne guardians. They decide who's worthy to come into the presence. And so, and that's not just with the Jewish people, that was throughout the ancient Near East, the idea of seraphim as throne guardians. The idea of angels as messengers was also not exclusive to the Jewish people. But anyway, those are names that are given to divine beings that have something to do with their job description, but there's some that have to do with their status. We have archangels and we have other things. Some are closer than others. There are others that have to do with their nature, like the word spirits. It means a real being that is not embodied. It is a spirit. It does not have a body. It does not appear as a body. Those are called spirits. But there are a number of others. Some other night, maybe we'll talk about more. These are the things we talk about on Tuesday night in our Second Look Bible study. We drill down on this kind of stuff. So those angels, they do not have agency at this point. Those that have elected to stay with Yahweh, they're entirely obedient to him. Those that at some point in time, early in history, that elected to rebel against Yahweh, their fate is sealed. So it's not like they can come back in. And in Psalm 82, Yahweh speaking to them says, because you have done this, because you have disobeyed, you have not taken care of the humans. They were originally designated to help God in governing the earth, and they were allotted certain people groups, nations we call them, ethne. And because they failed at that, it says at the end of Psalm 82, the Lord speaking, Yahweh speaking to these other Elohim, these divine beings who failed, Because of that, you will die like men, and they will be judged, because they have abused their authority over human beings. They didn't take care of people like they should. You can read Psalm 82 for that, and get ready to have your mind blown, because it's talking about the divine counsel there. It's talking about Yahweh as God Most High, but it specifically talks about these other Elohim. We use the word gods. Those are divine beings. Angels are an order of that. And at this point, the angels that stayed with Yahweh are entirely sold out and obedient, and they will be to the end of time. And those that are in rebellion will stay in that state till the end of time. So they don't have agency to switch back and forth anymore.
Do pagan gods have powers?
Okay, this kind of dovetails with the previous. What become known as the gods of the nations, and different nations have different gods. The Moabites have their Chemosh. The Canaanites have their Dagon. The Philistines, rather, have their Dagon. The Canaanites have their Baal, and on it goes. The Ammonites have their Molech. And all of these are different gods. Israel has Yahweh because Deuteronomy 32, these different nations were allotted to these different divine beings prior to them going bad. And they were allotted the different nations they were to be in charge of and help Yahweh in governing the earth. And each had a people group, a nation. But they failed. And in Deuteronomy 32, Yahweh, the God Most High, says, I will have my inheritance as well. He chooses Jacob. Before there is even an Abraham, he says, Israel, Jacob is going to be my inheritance. These divine beings that fell become the gods of those nations. Those nations begin to worship them. They were allotted to those divine beings, but again, they messed up. But over time, myths develop, all kinds of things. There's rebellion against God by human beings as well as divine beings. And the gods of the nations become rivals to Yahweh. That's what you see throughout the Old Testament. The people are continually running after Moloch, or running after Dagon, or running after Baal, because they're running away from God Most High. They're running away from Yahweh. And they're continually, the prophets calling them back, and there are bad things that happen as a result of their choice, because we as human beings have the ability to ruin ourselves by our own choices. And so that's exactly what they were doing. Even though mercy was extended to them, they very often continued in their rebellion because they're following these rival gods. These are the gods of the nations. Paul will say in the New Testament that those rival gods that caused the people of God in the Old Testament so much trouble are now causing the people of God in the New Testament era, believers, trouble. And he says they are in fact demons. That's who the demons are. That's the origin of the demons. They were the rival gods that were worshipped by the gods of the nations. And that's who the principalities and dominions and powers, the authorities and thrones that Paul will talk about, that's who they are. They are the gods of the nations. We now know them as demonic. But they've always been demonic, and that's not new. Caused trouble for the people of God in the Old Testament. They caused trouble for us in the New Testament and in our current era. So that's who they are. Are they real? They're very real. Do they have agency? Yes, they can make decisions. Do they have power? They had power, but at the cross and resurrection event, their authority and power was taken from them. That was part of what happened with the cross and resurrection. And Colossians and Ephesians talk about some point after the cross and resurrection, some kind of formal announcement, if you want to think of it that way, was made to those demonic forces, those gods of the nations, that really engineered the cross event, the crucifixion of Christ, because of this cosmic war that's been going on for a long time. And some kind of announcement was made to them at some point after the cross and resurrection that they had been defeated. Their authority and power was taken from them. That's why Jesus can say in the passage we call the Great Commission, Matthew 28:18 and 19, all authority, all power on heaven and earth has been given to me. I have taken it all back. There is no authority and power outside of heaven and earth. He's got it all. That means they don't. And the only ability that they now have, they formerly had more authority and power, these gods, these demonic things. And they could force and they could do things and they could wreak a lot of havoc. But after the cross and resurrection, one of the things that happened, one of the blessings that happened was that was taken away from them. So whether you're a believer or a non-believer, if you're a human on the planet, you have already benefited from the cross and resurrection. And you cannot be harassed by the enemy like you could have been before the cross and resurrection, because their authority and power was taken away. Jesus has it all. They have none. The only ability they retain, these beings, fallen divine beings, formerly thought of as the rival gods, the gods of the nations, in our era thought of as demonic, the only ability that they retain is the ability to deceive and lie. And that's what they do in spades. They're very good at that. The devil is a master liar. Jesus called him the father of lies. And that's the power that they retain. But they cannot force you to do anything. So do the pagan gods have power? They did. They don't have nearly the power that they used to at this point. And at one point, it seems to be a step-by-step process. What is talked about in the end of Psalm 82, that they will die like men, it's approaching that. And part of the stripping away of their power happened at the cross and resurrection. But at the end, the time of reconciliation, they will be finally dealt with. Book of Revelation talks about that. So no, they cannot force you to do anything. The devil cannot make you do anything. He can lie. He can lie to you and make you think he can make you do things. But all he can do is lie. That's why the Bible says for the believer, resist the devil and he will flee. Simply tell him no. He has no power to force you to do anything.
Okay, we got time for one more here. What's up with fasting?
Fasting. Well, we're entering in our church into a period of 40 days of prayer and fasting that will start on Monday, right? Yeah, begin on Monday, and it'll conclude on Good Friday, so 40 days. Fasting is...
And this is different than Lent, right? This isn't Lent.
Well, the Lenten season began
Is it the
yesterday.
same thing? Or is it different though?
This is what's traditionally called on the Christian calendar the Lenten season. So yeah, we're in Lent, and fasting is a traditional Lenten discipline. Fasting is a spiritual discipline that's been largely forgotten in our day. Most Christians are unfamiliar with it. Very few Christians practice it currently. But it is a means whereby you can intensify your experience with God, because one of the things that fasting does for you when you're going through it is it makes very clear to you what is it that's controlling your life. Is God controlling your life, or are your passions, your desires, your pleasures controlling your life? You find out a lot about yourself in fasting, as well as a lot about the Lord. Fasting is a spiritual discipline that intensifies all of the other spiritual disciplines. It makes prayer more meaningful. It makes reading the Word more meaningful. It makes meditation more meaningful. But it's unknown in our day. The Bible doesn't offer us a lot of help about how to fast, because the people in those days when a fast was called, they did it with such regularity that they didn't need anybody to tell them how to do it, how to fast, how to come off of a fast, how to keep yourself alive during a fast. They didn't need anybody to tell them because they already knew it. And therefore, the Bible doesn't give us a lot of how-tos because the people were already familiar with it. We're the ones that are not familiar with it. So just very quickly, let me just talk about a few ways that you can fast. There are partial fasts. There's a partial fast whereby you do without certain foods. Maybe you say, okay, for this period of fasting, and it can be long or short, I'm not going to eat meat, or I'm not going to eat bread, or you pick it, okay? That's a kind of partial fast. Another partial fast, and it's what we'll be doing for 40 days, is you pick designated meals throughout the week. You don't fast 3 or 4 days at a time. I would caution against that. If you want to do that, there's a way that you can work into that, but you don't want to go cold turkey and just do that. But what this partial fast is, you decide, I'm not going to eat breakfast on Monday. I'm not going to eat lunch on Thursday. Maybe you'll pick another one. I'm not going to eat dinner on Saturday. Or maybe just one. But you pick select meals throughout the week for the period of fasting, and you say, I'm going to fast during those times. And that's what our church is doing. Everybody's taking a meal or a couple of meals throughout the week, and we'll just continue that, throughout the 40 days, Tuesday lunch or whatever. So that's a partial fast. There are partial fasts where you drink only water. That would be a fast. There's fasting of where you control your diet and maybe do the Daniel fast, where you only eat vegetables and grains and fruits and water. Okay? Maybe you do a fast that doesn't involve food. You can fast from social media. You can fast from use of your phone except for making calls. You can fast television or some other kind of media. So there's that kind of fast, a very valuable kind of fast, and I practice it for great benefit. I do it I do it all the time. I just incorporated it into the way I live. And that is, I fast from billboards. I don't look at those advertisements. As soon as they come into my gaze, I look away, because advertisements are meant to make you disappointed and unhappy. And I don't want to be unhappy. So I'm not going to look at your propaganda. I'm not going to read it. So there are just various kinds of fasting that you can do. Includes food, but it doesn't have to include food. And there are extended fasts. You can go on longer fasts, but you want to talk to somebody who's got a little bit of experience about how to do that, how to come off the fast. There are ways to do that. So there are partial fasts, there are total fasts, there are just different ways to fast. But when you do it, you discover who's really in charge. Have I really let the Lord be in charge, or am I being governed by my pleasures, my desires, my wants? Let me give you one tip. There's a 24-hour fast, and that sounds really drastic, but it's really not that hard. You eat your dinner, let's say it's 6 o'clock on your evening meal. You eat your dinner, don't eat breakfast, don't eat lunch, eat your dinner the next day at 6 o'clock. You just fasted 24 hours. And that's really doable by just about anybody. But if you do that kind of fast, you want to make sure that you take in plenty of water, kind of limit your caffeine, because you'll get a little spun out with being that hungry. But you can do it. So again, there are a variety of ways to fast, but what it does is it intensifies every other spiritual experience that you have.
All right, that is all we have time for.
Well, then that's all we will do. It's been great that you've been with us. I hope it's been helpful. Pardon me for the little rant about the he gets us thing, but...
no, that was perfect. That's what we wanted.
Well, good. Listen, it's been great that you've been with us. I hope it's been helpful. We are with Alta Vista Assembly in Bakersfield, California. It's a great church. It's a good church. It's a solid church. We meet at 10 o'clock English. We've got another English at 5 o'clock. We've got a Spanish at 2 o'clock, Spanish language again at 7 o'clock. And throughout the week, we do various outreaches. We reach out to the most hardcore of the homeless. We'll be doing that in a couple of Thursdays. We also do regular food distribution, trying to improve the quality of life for folks that live in our area, where our church is located in East Bakersfield. And so it's a good church. It's an active church. We have coming up this weekend a ladies' brunch. We have a men's breakfast. We have a youth meeting on Saturday evening. You can check all that out on our website. But we're doing things, and we hopefully are doing things that please the Lord and help folks out. You'd be most welcome if you do not find yourself attached to a good home church and you're in our area this coming Lord's Day. 10 o'clock, again, is our English. 5 o'clock, another English. 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock Spanish, and you'd be welcome to any or all of those. Right in the middle, we do a 5 o'clock prayer time at 5 o'clock, 1 hour prayer time at 5 o'clock. So anyway,
You just said 5 o'clock.
that makes it 10 o'clock. Don't be misled.
You said you had a question for me.
That's for you personally later.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
You made it seem like you were gonna ask in front of all those people. So
well, okay, I'll
no,
ask.
go ahead. We're out of here. We'll see you later, guys. Have a good night.
Hey, we always drop our service on Sunday on the Alta Vista Facebook page, also on our YouTube channel, and that happens at 2 o'clock, the worship package. Then the message gets dropped at 2
p.m. and 2:15.
2:15. So you can check it out there, okay? If you don't see us live, 10 o'clock or any of those other times, why, check us out there. But however we make connection next time, let's do our very